There is a kind of power that lives in silence, a strength that grows when you stop explaining yourself to people who were never meant to understand you. It is not the power of force. It is not the power of noise. It is the power of a woman who has learned that her peace is more valuable than their approval, that her truth matters more than their comfort, and that sometimes the most revolutionary thing you can do is close your mouth and tend to your own garden while the world spins wildly around you. You have spent so much of your life speaking into voids, defending yourself to people who had already made up their minds, justifying your existence to those who never deserved an explanation, pouring yourself out for people who drank you dry and still called you empty. You have bled words into spaces that gave you nothing back but judgment, ridicule, or worse, indifference. And somewhere along the way, you forgot that silence is not weakness. You forgot that withdrawal is not defeat. You forgot that you do not owe the world a performance of your pain or a dissertation on your worthiness. Let me tell you what silence really is. Silence is the moment a woman stops arguing with fools and starts building altars to herself. Silence is when you realize that not everyone deserves a seat at the table of your inner life. Silence is the boundary you draw around your spirit when you finally understand that some people were only in your life to teach you what you will no longer tolerate. Silence is holy. Silence is dignity. Silence is the sound of a soul that has decided it will no longer beg for crumbs of recognition from people who should have been honored to know it. But I know what silence costs. I know the ache of being misunderstood. I know what it feels like to pull back from the noise and wonder if anyone will notice, if anyone will care, if your absence will leave even the smallest dent in a world that seems so loud without you. I know the loneliness that comes when you stop performing, when you stop shape-shifting to fit into rooms that were never designed for your fullness. When you stop laughing at jokes that diminish you, stop nodding along to conversations that erase you, stop pretending that you are small so others can feel large. There is a specific kind of grief that comes with choosing yourself. It is the grief of realizing that some people only love the version of you that served them, the version that was quiet when they needed silence, the version that was loud when they needed validation, the version that bent when they needed comfort, but never asked for your own bones to be set. You were their mirror, their therapist, their cheerleader, their confessor, their soft place to land. But who were you allowed to be when the costume came off? Who held you when you were too tired to hold yourself? Heartbreak is not always romantic. Sometimes heartbreak is your mother never asking how you are. Sometimes heartbreak is your friends only calling when they need something. Sometimes heartbreak is realizing that you have been everyone's safe space, but no one thought to build one for you. Sometimes heartbreak is the sound of your own voice, finally telling the truth and watching people walk away because they preferred the lie. Abandonment does not always look like someone leaving. Sometimes abandonment is someone staying, but never really seeing you, never really hearing you, never really choosing you. You can be abandoned in a room full of people. You can be abandoned in a relationship. You can be abandoned by family, by community, by everyone who said they loved you but only loved what you could give. And the cruelest part, you learn to abandon yourself too. You learn to silence your own needs. You learn to minimize your own pain. You learn to say, I'm fine, when you were falling apart because you did not want to be a burden, because you had seen what happened to women who asked for too much, who needed too loudly, who dared to take up space with their suffering. Shame becomes a second skin when you are taught that your fullness is too much, that your anger is unbecoming, that your sadness is dramatic, that your joy is naive, that your boundaries are selfish, that your truth is inconvenient. You carry generations of women who swallowed their words, women who smiled through violence, women who buried their dreams in the backyard and grew vegetables instead because that is what was expected, women who were told that their voices did not matter, that their bodies were not their own, that their purpose was to serve and their reward was to be forgotten. You carry their silence in your bones, but you also carry their survival. You carry their resilience. You carry the truth that they endured so you could speak, so you could choose, so you could walk away from anything that does not honor the life they fought to give you. Let me tell you about a woman I knew. She was the kind of woman who could light up a room just by walking into it. Her laughter was contagious. Her warmth was a refuge. Everyone wanted to be near her, to bask in her glow, to take a little piece of her light home with them. But no one ever asked where the light came from. No one ever asked what it cost her to shine so brightly for everyone else. She gave and gave and gave until there was nothing left. And when she finally had nothing more to offer, when she was too tired to perform, too depleted to be the sun in everyone else's sky, they disappeared. The phone stopped ringing. The invitations stopped coming. The people who had claimed to love her suddenly had no time, no energy, no space for a version of her that was not always on, always bright, always giving. She learned a terrible lesson, that she had been loved for her utility, not her humanity. So she did something radical. She stopped. She withdrew. She pulled her energy back like a river changing course. She stopped answering every call. She stopped saying yes to every request. She stopped explaining herself, defending herself, making herself smaller so others could feel bigger. And people called her cold. They called her distant. They called her selfish. They said she had changed, and they did not mean it as a compliment. But here is what they did not see. In the quiet, she was rebuilding herself. In the silence, she was remembering who she was before the world told her who to be. In the stillness, she was planting seeds in soil that had been barren for years. She was not becoming cold. She was becoming whole. Let me tell you about another woman. She was a child when she learned that her voice did not matter. She learned it from the adults who talked over her. She learned it from the teachers who ignored her raised hand. She learned it from the family members who told her to be quiet, to stop asking questions, to stop making noise. So she became quiet. She became so quiet that people forgot she was there. She became so quiet that she almost forgot she was there. She carried that silence into adulthood. She sat in meetings and did not speak. She stayed in relationships where she was not heard. She lived a life that felt like a whisper, like a shadow, like something half-formed and always apologizing for existing. Until one day, something cracked open inside her. Maybe it was pain, maybe it was exhaustion, maybe it was the realization that she could not live another year as a ghost in her own life. She started small. She said no to something she did not want to do. She spoke up in a meeting. She told the truth about how she felt, even though her voice shook. And the world did not end. In fact, the world barely noticed, but she noticed. She noticed that her voice was still there, buried under years of fear and conditioning, but still there, still hers. She practiced using it, not loudly, not aggressively, just honestly, just clearly, just as herself. And slowly, the people who could not handle her voice fell away. The people who needed her to be silent, who needed her to be small, who needed her to be convenient, they left. And in the space they left behind, she found herself. She found her breath. She found her power. She learned that her voice was not a weapon. It was a birthright. Let me tell you about a third woman. She was someone who survived something terrible, something that broke her into pieces so small she did not not know if she could ever be whole again. For a long time, she tried to put herself back together the way she had been before. She tried to be the same person, to have the same energy, to smile the same way, but it did not work. The pieces did not fit anymore. She was ashamed of that. She thought it meant she was damaged. She thought it meant she had failed at healing. But one day, she stopped trying to be who she was before. She stopped trying to fit into the shape of her old life. She let herself be different. She let herself be changed. She let the breaking reshape her into something new. And what she found was this: she was not broken. She was broken open. The cracks were not signs of weakness. They were places where the light got in. They were proof that she had survived something that could have destroyed her and chose to keep living anyway. She learned that healing is not about going back. It is about going forward. It is about building a new life with the pieces you have left and discovering that those pieces, scarred and sharp as they are, can create something more beautiful than what existed before. Before I continue, answer one question honestly. When was the last time you chose your peace over someone else's comfort? When was the last time you walked away from a conversation that was draining you, a relationship that was diminishing you, a situation that was costing you your peace? When was the last time you put yourself first without apologizing for it? If you are still listening, something inside you is remembering who you are. There is a part of you that never forgot, a part of you that has been waiting quietly, patiently for you to come home to yourself, a part of you that knows your worth even when you have forgotten it, a part of you that has been whispering the truth even when you could not hear it over the noise of everyone else's expectations. That part of you is awake now. That part of you is ready. That part of you is calling you back. Focusing on yourself is not selfish. It is survival. It is the recognition that you cannot pour from an empty cup, that you cannot give what you do not have, that you cannot love others well if you do not love yourself first. Focusing on yourself is the decision to stop abandoning yourself for people who would not do the same for you. It is the decision to stop seeking validation from people who will never give it. It is the decision to stop waiting for permission to live your life fully, freely, unapologetically. Staying silent is not about never speaking. It is about speaking with intention. It is about recognizing that your words are valuable and should not be wasted on people who will not treasure them. It is about understanding that some battles are not worth fighting, some arguments are not worth having, some people are not worth convincing. Staying silent is about knowing when to speak and when to save your breath. It is about discernment. It is about wisdom. It is about recognizing that your energy is finite and precious and should be spent on things that matter, on people who matter, on a life that matters. When you focus on yourself and stay silent, you are not disappearing. You are becoming more yourself than you have ever been. You are shedding the layers of performance, pretense, and people-pleasing that have kept you small. You are stepping into the fullness of who you were always meant to be. Watch what happens when you stop explaining yourself. Watch what happens when you stop defending your choices. Watch what happens when you stop seeking approval from people who were never going to give it. The people who were only there for what you could give them will leave. Let them. The people who needed you to be small will be uncomfortable. Let them be. The people who thrived on your chaos will try to provoke you. Let them try. You are not responsible for their comfort. You are not responsible for their growth. You are not responsible for making them understand. You are responsible for one thing: honoring the life you have been given by living it as truthfully as you can. When you withdraw your energy from places that do not deserve it, you create space for something new. You create space for peace. You create space for clarity. You create space for joy. You create space for people who actually see you, hear you, value you. You create space for yourself. Self-acceptance is not a destination. It is a daily practice. It is waking up and choosing again and again to be kind to yourself, to speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love, to forgive yourself for being human, to celebrate yourself for surviving. Self-acceptance is looking in the mirror and seeing not perfection but presence, seeing not an ideal but a real person who has lived, who has struggled, who has tried, who has failed, who has gotten back up. Self-acceptance is the understanding that you do not need to be fixed. You were never broken. You were shaped by life, by pain, by love, by loss, by all the things that make us human. And that shaping did not diminish you. It deepened you. Self-respect is the boundary you set around your life. It is the line you draw between what you will accept and what you will not. It is the voice inside you that says, not anymore, not me, not in this life. Self-respect is walking away from people who do not respect you, even when you love them. It is choosing your dignity over their comfort. It is refusing to shrink so they can grow. It is believing that you deserve better even when no one else believes it for you. Self-respect is not arrogance. It is not cruelty. It is not coldness. It is simply the recognition that you matter, that your life matters, that your time matters, that your peace matters, that you are worthy of the same love, care, and consideration you so freely give to others. Inner freedom is not about escaping your circumstances. It is about releasing the need for your circumstances to be different before you can be at peace. It is about finding peace within the chaos. It is about discovering that no matter what is happening around you, there is a place inside you that is untouchable, unbreakable, whole. Inner freedom is the moment you stop waiting for your life to begin, the moment you stop waiting for the right partner, the right job, the right body, the right amount of money, the right circumstances, the moment you realize that your life is happening now, in this breath, in this moment, and you can choose to live it fully, or you can keep waiting for permission that will never come. Inner freedom is the exhale after years of holding your breath. It is the softening after years of bracing for impact. It is the opening after years of closing yourself off to protect yourself from more pain. Inner freedom is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward even when you are afraid. It is the recognition that fear is not a stop sign. It is simply information, and you get to decide what you do with that information. You survive. You endure. You rise, not because you are superhuman, not because you are unbreakable, but because you are human, because you are breakable, because you have been broken and you are still here. You survive because survival is what you do. You endure because endurance is in your blood, in your bones, in the stories of every woman who came before you and refused to be erased. You rise because rising is not a one-time event. It is a daily choice. It is getting out of bed when you do not want to. It is putting one foot in front of the other when the path is unclear. It is choosing hope when despair would be easier. You survive, you endure, you rise, and every time you do, you prove that you are stronger than anything that tried to break you. Let me tell you what life looks like on the other side of silence, on the other side of focusing on yourself, on the other side of releasing people, places, and things that do not serve you. Life becomes quieter, not silent, but quieter. The noise of other people's expectations fades. The chaos of trying to be everything to everyone dissolves. What remains is your own heartbeat, your own breath, your own voice, finally clear, finally heard. Life becomes simpler, not easier, but simpler. You stop overcomplicating things. You stop creating drama where there is none. You stop chasing things that do not want to be caught. You focus on what matters, your peace, your growth, your joy. Life becomes yours, not a performance for others, not a reflection of what you think you should be. Yours, messy and imperfect and gloriously, authentically yours. The relationships that remain are deeper. They are built on truth. not convenience. They are built on mutual respect, not one-sided giving. They are built on people who see you, hear you, value you, and choose you not for what you can do for them, but for who you are. The work you do becomes more meaningful because you are no longer working to prove your worth. You are no longer hustling for validation. You are working from a place of purpose, passion, alignment. You are creating things that matter to you, not things that will impress others. The peace you feel becomes your compass. You start making decisions based on how they make you feel, not how they make you look. You start choosing paths that lead to peace, not paths that lead to applause. You start trusting yourself, your intuition, your inner knowing. And yes, some people will not understand. Some people will judge you. Some people will say you have changed, and they will say it like an accusation. But here is what you will know. You have not changed. You have returned. You have come back to yourself. You have remembered who you were before the world told you who to be, and that is not a loss. That is a homecoming. There is a kind of woman who walks through fire and comes out the other side not burned but forged. A kind of woman who has been underestimated, overlooked, abandoned, betrayed, and yet still stands, still speaks, still loves, still believes. You are that kind of woman. You are the woman who has survived every single thing that tried to destroy you. You are the woman who has turned pain into poetry, wounds into wisdom, scars into stories. You are the woman who has learned that your worth is not determined by who chooses you, but by the fact that you exist. You are the woman who is learning that silence is not surrender, that boundaries are not cruelty, that choosing yourself is not selfish, that walking away is sometimes the bravest thing you can do. You are the woman who is done performing, done shrinking, done apologizing for taking up space, done waiting for permission to live fully, freely, unapologetically. You are the woman who is building a life that feels like home, a life that honors your truth, a life that reflects your values, a life that celebrates your journey with all its twists and turns, all its falls and rises, all its heartbreak and healing. You are the woman who is learning to be still, to be quiet, to focus on your own garden while the world spins, to trust that what is meant for you will find you, to believe that you do not have to chase, perform, or prove anything to anyone. You are the woman who is remembering that your voice is powerful, not because it is loud, but because it is true. That your presence is a gift, not because you are perfect, but because you are real. That your life is valuable, not because of what you achieve, but because of who you are. You are becoming the woman you were always meant to be, not the version that others wanted, not the version that was convenient or comfortable or easy to digest, but the real version, the full version, the version that is complex and contradictory and beautifully, messily human. And when you become her, when you step fully into yourself, you will look back and see that every moment of pain, every moment of doubt, every moment of silence was preparing you for this, was shaping you, was teaching you, was leading you home. You will see that the silence was not emptiness, it was fullness. It was the sound of you finally listening to yourself. It was the space you created for yourself to breathe, to think, to feel, to be. You will see that focusing on yourself was not selfish. It was sacred. It was the act of honoring the life you were given. It was the decision to stop living for applause and start living for truth. And you will see that life did change, not because you became someone else, but because you became yourself. Life changes when you stop waiting for it to change and start changing how you show up in it. Life changes when you stop seeking validation from the outside and start validating yourself from the inside. Life changes when you stop letting other people's opinions dictate your choices and start listening to your own inner voice. Life changes when you realize that you are not a supporting character in someone else's story. You are the author of your own. and you get to decide what happens next. You get to decide who stays and who goes. You get to decide what you will accept and what you will not. You get to decide how you will spend your days, your energy, your love. Life changes when you take your power back, not by fighting, not by force, but by simply refusing to give it away anymore. So focus on yourself, tend to your own soul, water your own garden, heal your own wounds, celebrate your own wins, forgive your own mistakes, honor your own journey, stay silent when you need to, speak when it matters, walk away when it costs you your peace, stay when it nourishes your soul, trust yourself, believe in yourself, choose yourself, and watch. Watch how life changes. Watch how peace becomes your default. Watch how clarity becomes your guide. Watch how joy becomes possible again. Watch how love, real love, finds its way to you because you are finally ready to receive it. Watch how you become the woman you always knew you could be. The woman who survived. The woman who endured. The woman who rose. The woman who chose herself. The woman who came home. You are that woman. You have always been that woman, and now you are finally ready to see it. If this message spoke to your heart, share it with someone who needs courage today, and if you want more words that remind you of your worth, subscribe, because your voice matters.